I believe it's Led Zeppelin that said there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the path you're on. Um, so, this episode, we're going to talk about two paths when it comes to marketing your books, when it comes to your author business. But is it really that simple? Are there really just two paths? And can you walk both paths at the same time? We'll find out today on the Ronin Author. So, what's up, you guys? Welcome to the Ronin Author. I'm your host, Ryan McGinnis. I am the owner of S&D Designs, the owner of 217 Press, and a self-published author on Amazon. So this week, I wanted to talk about marketing because it's something that a lot of people struggle with. I've seen so many people, on threads, on different social networks, talk about how much easier life would be if we could just write our books, right? People are like, it's not enough that I'm an author. I also have to be a content creator, a comedian, an internet personality. And I get it. I get it. Because here I am doing a podcast, it's hard to find time to do all that stuff. But I think, when I came into the author business, I did a lot of research. We talked about that on the last episode, how you have to research, how you need to, you need to learn what you're doing. You need to learn the ways to do it. And I believe when I came into it, I read a lot of books and I read a lot about, the general thinking was, on the organic side, it was social media. It was, get your channels built, contact your audience, talk to your audience, be authentic, be real. And I try to do that as much as I can, whether I'm writing blogs on my blog or doing posts on my Facebook. It's mostly not generic stuff. Like every once in a while, I'll just put up an advertisement for one of my books, or a cool graphic with my book in it or something. And the other side of what I got into when I was doing my research, and what I did a lot of research on going into the author business was ads. The paid ads, whether it be social media, Amazon ads, whatever. I actually started with Amazon ads because in the course of me doing my research, I read Robert Ryan's Amazon Ads Unleashed and went on to read his whole series. And that's a really good series. And he makes a lot of good points. But I think maybe I was a little too gung-ho about it in the way I approached it, because honestly, at first, I would put stuff out about my books on social media, but I didn't regularly post. I put most of my faith in ads. I was like, okay, if I spend X amount of money, hopefully it's going to get me X amount of sales, blah, blah, blah. It's all very mathematical. And when my first book came out, which is right here, cheap plug. This is my first book, Tears of the Dragon. When it came out, I mostly did ads. I did do some social media posts on Facebook, and share it on my Facebook page and my blog, but mostly it was ads. And I spent a lot of money, and honestly, I've sold a lot of copies of Tears of the Dragon. It's sold better than, it's my first book. It's the first book in the series. It's sold more copies than any of the books. But honestly, I never broke even with it. I think there was a very brief period for like a couple months, around Christmas one year where I made more than I spent on ads. And I thought that was really cool. I thought, you reach a point with that where you break even and you're like, oh my God, I've made it. But that's the other thing is I don't think there's a making it. I think you get something, you succeed, it works, and then at a certain point it stops working and you have to do something else. And that can be soul crushing to some people, but I don't think there's any one thing. I don't think there's any one thing where you do it and that's just going to be bam, that's it. Now you've made it. Now you're selling a ton of books. I think it's very cyclical. I think it's very up and down. It's like a roller coaster. But I messed around with ads. I did Amazon ads. Amazon ads started getting really expensive, like the cost per click. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's why you do a series, because you can absorb that cost of the clicks, because when people buy a book, they're going to buy more than one book, and that's not guaranteed. But Amazon ads got very expensive. And so I kind of went the other way with it and started doing Facebook ads, and that was pretty good for a while. But now Facebook ads appear to have so much AI in them, and Facebook wants you to do this and wants you to do that. And I haven't gotten as much of a return on those because those, honestly, when I first started doing Facebook ads, I took a couple courses, a couple free courses, not even paid courses. I took some free courses from some people and kind of mixed and matched their styles and their recommendations. And when I first started Facebook ads, ridiculously successful. That was when I was making money because the Facebook ads, for one thing, the clicks are way cheaper. And then, I was getting a lot of sales. I was getting a lot of reads. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I let that run for like a year, uninterrupted. And then, then the ad kind of lost its shine. And it didn't work anymore because, like I said, stuff works and then it doesn't. And so, I dabbled in I tried different things with the Facebook ads. I never could quite get that initial success again with that. So about 2 years ago, I decided to hell with it. I'm just going to mostly do organic. And that, my sales slowed greatly. There was a big drop off in sales. The KU reads were still pretty much there, and and for a few months it wasn't too bad, and then eventually it really fell off. And so I started trying. Since then I have kind of dabbled with ads again, and then decided not to. It's like it all goes with whether you have a budget or not. Us as self-published authors, us as DIY authors, whatever you want to call it, independent authors, we all have to work within our budgets. I have a friend who spends an obscene amount of money on their books because their books sell and make an obscene amount of money. And so they can spend like a wild amount of money on ads. I can't. Mine depends on, I have the day job, which is my own business, but it's still a day job. And I have that, and it all depends. If that business is doing good, well, then I can spend some money on ads. If it's not doing good, well, I guess we're just doing, social media posts this month. So, I think we all have to work within our budgets, and the problem with any of that is, working within, ads have the downside that you have to spend money and you don't always break even. So you have to be able to be comfortable losing a little bit of money sometimes. With organic, the problem is you're at the mercy of the algorithms. And that's whether it's whatever network you're on, you're at the mercy of the algorithms, And so I'm of the opinion now that organic alone won't do it. Like if you're cool with doing organic and just selling a few books every once in a while, then cool. I mean, that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that. Like we've always said on the Ronin Author, there's like so many different paths to success, or what you even think success is, do I get bummed sometimes that, if I cut the ads off, I don't sell as many books? Yeah, of course. But also, do I think it's miraculous that people around the world have read my books? I do. I feel pretty freaking lucky, I think from my experiences, and this is just from my experiences, you might experience different, but I think the best path that you can have is to, and if you have the budget, if you have enough money, is to mix it up. I mean, do the organic, create content, like in my case, I create content. Whether it's a blog post, whether it's this podcast, shorts, reels, whatever. And then I repurpose it. Like a video I do on here, smaller versions of it will appear as a reel, as a short, as a TikTok, and you just spread it out because it's impossible to create individual content for all those platforms all the time. And certain content works better on certain platforms. I actually had a lot of success. I did a series of videos where I would put quotes from my book in front of videos with some music playing over them. And I put that on TikTok, and that really drove a lot of KU reads for a long time until it didn't because, logarithms change, things come and go. But yeah, repurpose your content over multiple channels. Also do some ads, mix it up, whatever you can afford, do little bits here and there, experiment, and I think that's probably the best thing you can do. I mean, I currently have my social media, my blog, my podcast, and my newsletter. And, that type of diversification can seem exhausting at times. That's why you repurpose content and use it on all the sites, cut corners when you can, and it makes it easier. And that kind of diversification, I mean, that's a whole different podcast. So we can talk about that on a future episode because it is important to spread your stuff out. And we'll talk about that soon. But that's kind of what I do. And I also have recently made the decision to restart ads. When I get time, I'm going to create some ads. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do Facebook or Amazon. I might try Amazon again, even though the clicks have been really expensive, but I might try it and just see if maybe some of those clicks have come down. Otherwise, it'll probably be like Facebook or something like that. I haven't decided. I haven't decided which one to do because both have pros and cons, and we can talk about that more in a future video. My point is the path of organic or paid. I don't think either one's really going to do it by themselves. I think we need to pick and choose. We need to use some organic. We need to use some ads. We need to mix it up when you have the budget. And you just need to do the best you can. And, that's been my experience so far. I'm sure I'll do a future episode where I've tried ads again and I'm like, hey, ads are great. I mean, you don't know. Not the same thing doesn't work for every person. So we just have to get out there and do the best we can with what we've got as a DIY author. But anyway, so if you guys enjoyed this episode, give me some likes, give me a subscribe, hit the notification bell so I can, so you'll be notified when I come out with new episodes. And that wraps up this week's Ronin Author. As usual, if you have any questions, message me or leave them in the comments, and we'll talk soon. We'll see you guys next week.